Hey everyone, welcome to the Elite Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Popple, along with my co-host, William McClelland. How you doing today, Will?
Good, bro. Ready to do this. This is gonna be a fun one.
Yeah, man. Actually, this is a great one because this is someone we've actually done a deal with. And right before we even got on this call, we even got our plans back for the deal we bought from this person. So today we're having on Marcus Ellis. He is a local wholesaler to the Pensacola area. He is a musician, a father, real estate investor, and wholesaler, and someone we have personally done a deal with and can vouch for. One thing I love about this guy is just how he's the most straightforward wholesaler I've ever dealt with. Very honest, will tell you his price and just tell you what he wants to make, and you can either come to the deal or not. So like I said, it's very refreshing to work with someone like this. So without further ado, let's bring on Mr. Ellis.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Good, man. How are you doing today?
Good. Thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here, man. I'm super stoked.
Yeah, no, man, we're definitely excited to have you. And like I said, we just got our plans back for I Street today. So we made a lot of progress. And I don't know how many was it? Probably right around a month ago is when we closed.
It was about a month ago, month and a half, something like that.
Yeah.
But the thing I'm most excited about is you had a dilapidated house that could not be rehabbed. And you guys are going to build something and really make the neighborhood pop. So it's going to be nice. I mean, I know all the neighbors around there are just ecstatic. So.
Oh yeah, we already had someone come up to us, and that was pretty cool. So, but yeah, dude, Marcus, I know we've sat down, connected. So I'm really excited to hop in today and let our listeners hear about your story. So you ready to jump right in?
Yeah, it's a long story. How much time we got?
Hey, we got time.
When you're an old man like me, you got a long story. So.
We'll just get more episodes. I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. So
cool.
Let's dive right in. Just a little bit about your background. Who Marcus is, like things before you got into real estate, and what really kind of drove you into entrepreneurship.
Sure. Well, like you guys said, my name is Marcus Ellis. I'm born and raised in Pensacola, Florida. An East Sider. Man, I grew up playing baseball in Pensacola on 2 state championship Bill Bond teams. Went to Cordova Park and Workman Middle School, Washington. And really, my kids don't like to go anywhere with me because I know everybody. I know everybody in town, that's my age and younger, just from being in different aspects of Pensacola. I've been a musician in Pensacola since I was 15. So, playing the beach and the clubs and all that, I've met a lot of people. When I became a real estate investor, I was working for a pro audio, video, and lighting integration company, meaning we designed and built and installed pro audio, video, and lighting systems for churches, schools, arenas, those types of buildings. And I've been doing that for a long time. So it's always been music for me. It was just, I was always into music, and that's what I did. But I found out probably at the ripe old age of 48, there's no money in the music business. I mean, you can make some, but you're not going to get rich off of it unless you have a hit or a record or something like that. So, I was working at this job where I was there for 15 years and made the same salary the entire 15 years, never got a single raise, making somebody millions. And I just happened to I was the liaison to deal with companies, like the big companies that sold speakers and projectors and that kind of thing. And one of the national sales managers of one of these large companies, her husband is a baller real estate investor out of Utah. And so I was at a trade show for music, and he and I hit it off. And he was just telling me, man, you need to go in real estate. You've got the personality for it. You've got the brains for it. And so then I started kind of dabbling in real estate while I was still at the other position.
Really? So that kind of ties into a lot of things that we talk about here on the show. It's just always networking, right? And connecting with people. So you're at a convention, totally different industry, but talking, chatting, and getting to know people, putting yourself out there and just put the right foot forward to, go into a totally different industry. That was awesome.
Man, it was amazing. So I'm a conversational guy. I talk a lot, and I like talking to people. And so I mean, this guy was sitting at a table full of bigwigs and suits and stuff like that, but he had a rock and roll t-shirt on with a sports coat on it. I'm like, that's the guy I'm gonna talk to.
I love it.
It ended up, being the catapult or the catalyst to my real estate career.
That's awesome.
That is, and because like I was, see, when we talked earlier, you mentioned, your early background, in music and everything. So, how do you, you, or do you still see yourself as a musician who's doing real estate, or more of a real estate investor who currently does music?
Man, that's a tough question. I mean, I've always been a musician. So, how I got into being an entrepreneur and selling is I followed the Grateful Dead, which for the younger people who might not know who the Grateful Dead are, they're a 60s psychedelic band that had a 30-year career in America, and they never played the same concert twice. So they had all their fans affectionately called Deadheads would follow the Grateful Dead around to big cities and small cities and all over America. And I did that. Well, in order to get from town to town, you needed to make some money, right? I mean,
Sure.
This is when gas was even, under a dollar a gallon, but you still, needed to make money. So that's where I learned how to be an entrepreneur. So my friends were importing clothes from Nepal. I first started selling, hippie clothes in parking lots all across the country, but quickly found out that beer was more profitable. And so I sold beer in the parking lot and would make, the IRS can come get me now because I was making $500 to $1,000 a day, tax free in the biggest cities and seeing the best shows and staying in the nicest hotels. So I was like, I like this sales thing, And so when I moved back to I'd moved from Pensacola to see more Grateful Dead shows. And when I moved back in '99, I started working in what's called a combo music store, meaning they sold guitars, amplifiers, PA systems. It was they sold everything in music stores. Did that for 10 years. That led me to the company that I was working for before I did this. So always in sales in order to try to grow, my income.
Awesome.
Yeah. So to answer your question, I didn't really answer your question. I'm a musician, right? Mm-hmm. But real estate puts food on the table. Now I say that, but I know we're going to get to the band I'm in now, but we just played 2 big shows, which it was a nice fat paycheck for those 2 shows. So it's kind of both, Sam, but I'm a musician at heart. I'm a lead singer. It's what I do. But also it kind of goes hand in hand because as a musician, you are serving the public. You're not there for yourself. You're trying to get somebody to be energetic or happy, or with my band, we try to bring you back to a point in time where things were simpler, or you have memories, or some of the, the first time you drove a car or something like that. Well, in real estate, and I may be unique, I may not, but you hear this as a cliche, but I really want to help people. So I'm helping people in foreclosure. I'm helping people with inherited properties, divorce, which is really bad, tax delinquency, those kind of things, and not taking advantage of those people, but really putting them on a path forward where they can succeed themselves. So let's say I deal with 10 people in a month on foreclosures. I will help 9 of them for free keep their house. And then that 10th person, hopefully I'll get to buy one out of that 10th person. But I can sleep at night knowing that I helped 9 people at no charge simply because I went out and found them too. So it's serving people. So the music side is you're serving people, trying to make people happy. On the real estate side, we're serving people, trying to keep them out of the, the stressful situation they're in.
Right. Well, and you serving and helping those, people, through their trouble, free of charge, they're going to remember that. I'm sure they know people that fall into similar circumstances that they were, too, that would be, having the same issue that, where, you might not have bought their house, but they might turn to a referral when you do end up are able to buy.
Absolutely. And that happens often. I mean, today, out of the blue, I had a seller text me. I probably wholesaled her house 2 years ago. And she texted me today, and I'll read to you what she said to me, but it's really crazy. She said, "Hi, I want to give you your review. You made us so happy 2 years ago with the sale of Ferndale. Give me a call." So that was out of the blue today. So if people are remembering you 2 years later and you hadn't talked to them, all of a sudden they just thought of me today and wanted to give me a review, we got to be doing something right, Now,
no, that's incredible.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Did you contact her?
Oh yeah. I called her. Yeah. So I just had a Google review pop up, but I'm going to go over there and get a video testimony is what I'm going to do.
Oh,
But yeah.
that's
So, I
awesome,
mean,
man.
this seller was going through a hard time. She was going through a divorce. It was an inherited property. It was a probate situation. She didn't know how to navigate the probate, end of things. And we helped her with that. So really, anybody, and you guys know this, and I mean, William, you're an expert in your field, but anybody that's getting into this, educate yourself, learn how to be an expert in what you're doing, because now I know that somebody can go, oh, well, my father died 3 years ago and I have to go through a 6-month probate process. Well, no, you don't, because after 2 years in the state of Florida, you can go through a summary judgment. It's a much shorter process. It's much cheaper, and you can help somebody navigate those waters where some attorney might not tell them and make them do the full bore probate for more profit. Not saying that attorneys are devious or not, but we know attorneys. But so helping people navigate those waters because you're an expert is a bonus. So anybody looking to get into this, I'd educate yourself. And, that could lead to another portion that we could get to of how I got into this.
Yeah, I think that's exactly kind of where I'm going. Is you've been in it for about 5 years. So what inspired you into this? I know you met this guy who had a cool, he had a t-shirt on from a cool band that you liked, Blazer. This is the guy I'm chatting with. But what really, outside of him, like made you dive deep into here and then utilize wholesaling as that specific strategy that you wanted to become an expert in?
Yeah, because I went through a foreclosure due to divorce myself. And had I known what I know now, I would have saved my house. But I went through a divorce over 10 years ago. And, like most husbands do, they just give the house to the family, right? Which I did. And there needed to be a refinance on it. And that refinance didn't happen. And so my name was still on the mortgage and the deed. And I didn't know it. And this is, a few years after my divorce, which was painful in itself, right? So you kind of forget that stuff. Well, this is during the period of time when Wells Fargo was all over the news scamming people. And they called me at work and they said, hey, we're foreclosing on your house in a couple of weeks and we want to give you an opportunity, to save it. And I kind of read them the riot act and I was like, you jokers, I see you on the news. I don't own a house. And they said, well, is this address your house? I said, come again. Cause it was my address that I used to live at.
Oh my God.
Long story short, my name was on it. My former wife did not refinance it in her name. And so I didn't know what to do. And I let it just get foreclosed on. Right. Now this is too, think about this too. The heartbreak of, fixing something up and putting money into it and doing the things we do to their house and have a bank just take it because you didn't know, and I could have been bitter, but what I did was I was like, you know what? I don't want this to happen to anybody else ever again. So I became an expert in foreclosures with that meeting with that guy at the conference. All of this coincided because when he said he was a real estate investor, I was like, oh, you got to hear what happened to me. And I told him my story. So really through a bad experience is how I got into it, and why my heart is where it is that why I want to help somebody, because I don't want somebody going through what I went through. And I mean, not only that, but that was on my credit forever. Like it was really, my credit still has struggling from that episode. And I know how to deal with that, but there's so many ramifications for, what we call these vexing situations, whether it be a foreclosure or code violation or whatever. There's a lot more than just meets the eye to it. So it's really in your benefit to know what you're talking about so you can really help people instead of just trying to make a buck.
Yeah. No,
definitely. And I mean, and wholesaling is such a great strategy for, for people getting into real estate, especially, starting with, little cash. So how did you learn about wholesaling and what were some of those early challenges for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, I'll just say the guy's name with Greg McCluskey, who he's out of Utah. He was my coach. I still consider him my coach. He was a fix and flip coach, right? But the properties that I was going after, when I was able to lock them up, my first few, he was like, bro, these are good wholesale deals. You need to wholesale that. Well, what is that? And I'm grateful for that. I probably wouldn't be doing this still if I was flipping right out of the box, right out of the gate.
Sure.
But then I will say, when I did that, I was struggling kind of, trying to decide, if I was going to flip or whatever. And I did take a class through Pig with Matt Robinson. And I think you guys took it too. Did you take the Wholesale Mastermind?
Yeah.
That's when things.
That's how we met. No, Will and I met. So yeah.
That's when things clicked for me. So I really didn't do any deals. I was in the other class with Greg and I really didn't do anything. I was still finding my way. Once I took that Wholesale Mastermind, then I started popping.
Nice.
And so I was able to, through a code violation and, being, diligent in I went to an obituary that was attached to this house and found out that it was a young widower who owned the house. He had multiple code violations and he was tax delinquent. He had no idea he was about to lose it and he was renting it. And so I educated him and said, hey, man, you've got 20 grand in code violations and you haven't paid taxes in 4 years. They're about to auction your house off, on the courthouse steps, which is on the internet now. Wouldn't you rather just make 20 grand? And he was like, well, yeah. So I was able to, that was the first property I got through, Matt's class, digging and finding things. Cause you could see like the estate of the property. So then I Googled it, found an obituary, which then gave me the widower's name, found him, skip trace it. And then all of a sudden I have a $15,000 wholesale deal.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's really working hard, when you're doing it. And, all of us being business owners, there's times where, I have to take my kids to school. I have to show up for a play or something like that where we're not always working. But when you're in it, be diligent, and I know you guys do that to find your land deals.
Try to. Yeah, no, that's a big one. Like being able to do the deal with you is so cool. And then having you on, this is awesome. We can't wait for you to, might as well come out when we pour the foundation, it's gonna be
I mean, I can't wait to see it. And once again, think about what we're doing for the community.
Totally.
That house had a hole in the roof with a tree in it, right?
Tree in it.
and they were an unpermitted addition that was already, sideways.
Yeah. Well, and not only that, the neighborhood's dealing with squatters in that house.
Yeah.
So once again, the mindset is to help people and to better the environment where these properties are. Because you think about it, these homeowners now, when you guys build this beautiful property, their property value is going up.
Totally.
Right? Well, no, and I mean, that's actually, the first day Will and I went and looked at it after closing, very first neighbor that greeted us when we saw our trucks pull up was basically somebody picked us out for, home builders and, was excited and happy and couldn't wait for it because, he totally understood that what we do in our lot is going to help him and his. So
exactly.
That's pretty cool. But yeah, so you went to a class, originally started with fix and flips, and then you kind of zoned in and really found your niche by doing a mastermind. I do always think, and we hear it over and over here, you got to find that coach. You got to find that niche. You got to find what kind of speaks to you and what you can become an expert in to help the most amount of people, right?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
That's exactly what you did. And now you're kind of continually expanding that knowledge, and you're doing more buy and hold rentals, right? So you're back wholesaling, helping as many people. You're rolling, so able to make things happen. And so you're doing fix and flips, but you're actually holding these properties, right?
Yep, we are. And once again, it's back to helping somebody. Most of the houses that we hold are subject to deals.
Talk a little bit about that, because we've had a couple guests, but it's always good to if this is the first time a listener's hopping in, what that means. And
let's say this. Be creative. Learn how to do different aspects of real estate. It's out there. And you said find a coach. I would recommend, if you can, find somebody local, somebody around, and don't deal with the $30,000, $20,000 classes that are out there where you're never going to see this person. It's just going to be a video recording of somebody. I think you guys have learned this, and I'll get back to your question real quick. But if there's a real estate investor that's holding their cards close to the vest and not helping you, they're not real. I've learned that every real estate investor, we share secrets. how did you do this? How did you get that? Because I'm sure you guys have experienced this. There's been so many properties that my other friend investors said, man, how did you get that one? I was trying to get that one. And they weren't mad. They were just like, tell me what you did. And so one of the things that I did was I told a brother of mine about subject twos, and he was like, tell me how you're doing that. And so this particular property that we were talking about, unfortunately, on Navy Boulevard, and I say unfortunately because we were going to close on it today and we didn't. But this one on Navy Boulevard, there wasn't enough meat on the bone to wholesale it. But this seller really needed our help. There was a horrible backstory of a fiance that fought for our country and had PTSD and took his own life, not in this house, but for this seller. And she just couldn't keep up. So we didn't want to take advantage of her saying, well, we can only pay you X. I mean, we told her this is all we're going to be able to give you. And she's like, well, that doesn't help me at all because I have a mortgage. And I said, well, what about if we take over the mortgage payments for you? And so that's our subject to deal. So we started paying the mortgage, and we did long-term and short-term rentals in the property to be able to pay for that until we decided to list it. So on this particular subject to deal, we just took over the mortgage payments for her. And we put 20 grand into the house. Right. Wow. So we bettered the property. It's still in her name. Right. But so we're really helping in the fact that we're paying the mortgage and her credit is fine. And we're bettering the property by putting money into it where she still owns it. Right now, we have a contract to where we have the option to buy. And that's where we are right now. We put that house on the market to sell, but we were able to help her by taking over her mortgage payments. Think about it. It's a huge load. I mean, she wasn't living in the house. It was vacant. She was living in another property. So that was a huge payment that she didn't have to make anymore. Totally. We're making the payment for her and improving the house. And now once we sell it, then it'll pay off that mortgage for her and she'll have a fat paycheck. And then so will we.
That's a win-win-win. I love it. I love it.
And that's being creative. And not that I'm so smart, but I have a business partner, Ryan Gallagher, and he's really great on the creative side. So we've done 4 or 5 subject to deals where we've ended up listing some of these properties and sold them and did really, really well. And then these people that we're buying the houses from, they're friends of mine. Like I see them out now and that's cool. They come to my shows and things like that. So it's never like a one and done. Oh, let's make the money off of it and never talk to these people again. Sometimes that happens, but a lot of times these people end up being your friends and you still see them out and they're very appreciative each time they see you.
That's cool.
Well, so speaking of your shows, one of the reasons I'm not a successful musician is I would never wanted to practice.
Right.
It's practicing wasn't for me. It takes a lot of time. So how do you balance, your time between investing, music, having time for your kids? How do you make all that, happen overall?
You lose a lot of sleep. So last night, for those of you who don't know, I sing in a fairly popular rock and roll tribute band called White Tie Rock Ensemble. My wife plays violin in it with me. It's a 5 or 6 piece rock band, depending on the needs, and all female string quartet. We play the Pensacola Bay Center, what was commonly referred to as the Civic Center. And so we do classic rock albums in their entirety. Could be Dark Side of the Moon, could be Led Zeppelin 4, or we'll do a genre of 80s arena rock with Journey and Kansas and Boston and all that. That's a little 70s too, but and we do really well. Last night I went to rehearsal at 6:30 and I got home at 10:30. So I was able to pick my daughters up from school, barely eat dinner with the family, shove something in my mouth, and then go to rehearsal. So regardless of whether we have a show or not, we're always rehearsing because it's got to sound as close to the record as it can. Being a singer, you would think that I don't have to practice, but this last show, we did a show last Saturday night at the Bay Center, and it was an 80s show. It was 30 different songs by 30 different bands.
Oh,
and so for me as a vocalist to try to sound as close to these people as I was in the closet of my bedroom during the day for hours working on a song. And it took me about an average of 6 hours per vocalist to kind of get them right. But my shtick is that I sound almost like the original thing. That's what I try to do.
Well, I was actually going to say, I think it's probably harder to try to, be great at doing a cover than to even do an original to some degree because, you're held to the standard of the original artist,
Yeah.
on it. So it's like, you either, did them a great service or wow, you blew that away or else, or maybe not,
Yeah.
like it's like, it's one of those. I mean, versus if it's your song, no one can tell you it's wrong because it's your song.
Sure. Well, what's funny is, White Tie is a amalgamation of all the best bands from the 90s and the early aughts in Pensacola that, all ruled the clubs and the beaches and all that. And we got the all-stars out of those bands. And what's funny is when we're working on a song, we start laughing going, wow, all these years I've been playing it wrong. Because in a bar, or a club, you're just playing and having a good time. But we really pay attention to detail, where it's precision is what we do because most everybody in the band are classically trained, not me, but my wife is, she plays violin. Jonathan Clark that plays bass and sings with me, he plays violin. His wife plays cello. So, and they're all Escambia County orchestra teachers,
Wow,
so they have day gigs too, which is really how it started, was to educate young musicians on something besides Bach and Beethoven that they were getting bored with. So it started out where we were having 50 young musicians on stage with us playing, and then it just exploded into this thing to where there's no way we could schedule 50 different families to be at a show. So they usually will play one show a year with us, and then we'll have the female string quartet behind us. So, but it's a lot of work. I mean, it's 3 to 4 nights a week rehearsal. And then, like I said, everybody's got to shed and do their own homework to learn how to perform these songs properly. But not to toot my own horn, but I'm very proud. We're really good at what we do.
That's awesome. So tell the listeners when your next show is.
Here in Pensacola, it'll be June 28th, and that one's going to be Monsters of Rock. That's going to be a hair metal show. It's Def Leppard, AC/DC, Whitesnake, that kind of stuff. But our next show is it's at OWA in Foley, Alabama, which is the amusement park over there. They have a beautiful little 400-seat theater, and we're going to be doing what we're calling Americana rock. So it's Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, John Cougar Mellencamp, Steve Miller Band, the Eagles. Did I already say Bob Seger? So there's a few of those. So we've come to find that the genre shows are really appealing because it's multiple bands versus just doing Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd in the first set. We'll do Greatest Hits or something like that. So that show at OWA is May 9th and 10th. But we play Dothan, we play their arena there. We play corporate gigs around here, but the next Pensacola show is June 28th.
Awesome, man. Yeah, that's tough, being able to juggle all those schedules and making everything happen, and then also being able to help so many people in the real estate side, but then also on the entertainment side too. But
and your family,
and the most important, right? And
family. Yeah, which is why we do this, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I always like to kind of round out this first episode here, just asking everyone, when you got in, we all made mistakes, but what are some of those kind of critical mistakes that maybe some listeners could, learn from? And then how did you also overcome those? And then,
Sure. Well, I have a funny story from my first mistake. My advice would be, don't try to wholesale anything that's on market. If there's a realtor sign in the front yard, run. So I wish I could have done something with this property, but it's on LaRua Street downtown. It's in the historic district. And I got it under contract. I lost my $2,000 EMD on it.
No.
Yeah, but you know what? When you lose that money, it's like, you're learning. And the best thing about it is I picked up a handful of buyers from that house because I marketed it online, right? And I'm still wholesaling properties to those buyers today. So had I not made, that mistake, now would I have met them other ways? Maybe. But I remember, meeting a bunch of guys going, and this property was so cool, man. And whoever renovated it did a good job because somebody got it after me. And now there's a family living there. And it, once again, brought a beautiful old historic house in Pensacola back to life. So yeah, do your homework and learn how to get something off market. Are there on market deals? Yeah. There's people who do that, that scour on market deals and make that happen. I just find it's really difficult because you're paying an agent a commission, right? So that's going to take it, a dent out of your wholesaling fee. But there are people who do it.
And so just to kind of round this out, how do you find those off-market deals? What are your kind of go-to strategies for some of the listeners here?
Sure. Well, I mean, the county records, I mean, you have tons of data at your fingertips. You can go to the county online, and some of the stuff's easy to find. Some of it's not easy to find, but you put your time in and do your work, and you find your code violations and your tax delinquents and your divorces and all those types of things. And those are the types of things that Matt Robinson taught me in the wholesaling course, finding buyers by scouring the county database and seeing who bought these properties. Mm-hmm. That's really worked well. So that's how we find them is getting lists. Can you buy lists from programs? Sure. Is that data up to date? Probably not. Is it good data? Probably. It's good. But so something that I do that I tell everybody, and a lot of people can't do this, but my personality allows it. I door knock. I door knock like crazy. And the property that I just told you guys that we picked up on Creighton Road, that I got it under contract and assigned it in the same day, I was door knocking. Wow. And the crazy thing about it is when you go to one of these houses, there's going to be a handful of times, every now and then, not every time, where somebody goes, I can't believe you're here. I prayed this morning for somebody to come help me and you're at my door. So door knocking works very well. I know a lot of people can't do that. I know their dispositions are not that way. But you know what? When you do something over and over and over, it gets easier, because the first time that I was door knocking, I was like, hamana, and nothing came out of my mouth. It was just gibberish, because I wasn't practiced.
Sure.
But for me, it's really easy because I can say to somebody that's in foreclosure, I've been exactly where you are right now, and I know exactly how to get you out. That's powerful, So once again, becoming an expert in something and being able to tell a seller, hey, I know what you're going through, and I wouldn't lie. I wouldn't say I've been there before if you haven't, but for me, I have been there. And so people really take a liking to that, and they can tell if you're genuine. They can tell when you're on the phone or what. That's another good. Be real. Don't put on any airs, right? Don't try to be something you're not. I think in a lot of these courses, they say, fake it till you make it. Yeah, I agree with that to a point. I change that around though to feel it till you reel it. Like you got to
reel it. I love it.
You've got to believe that what you're doing is real. So a lot of times a coach will tell you to fake it till you make it. You're essentially lying, right? Mm-hmm. I like to go in and when I didn't know, it's like, hey, I've never dealt with this before, seller, but you know what? I'm going to find out. People appreciate authenticity and genuineness. So that's something I would not be fake and just say, oh yeah, hey man, I've wholesaled 100 properties and that doesn't work. Be real.
No, I completely agree with that. I think that there's a level of comfort that people find as well, right?
Yeah.
I've heard quite a few deals that people are like, hey, you actually, offered me less. It doesn't happen all the time, but you've offered me less than what these other people have offered me, but they were calling me from way out of town, out of state. They were promising me all these things, but they were so salesy, and it was hard for me to believe in them, versus calling on someone that's tangible, that's in the area, and that can,
I've probably had about 5 deals in my life, closed due to credibility.
Sure.
People being able to vouch, like whether it be like my realtor or someone associated in the deal being a vouch that they've seen me close deals and know I close deals and know that if I'm under contract to buy it, I'll buy it, And then that's what's put me over someone else when our offers were very close.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I've had that, like Will said, I've had that happen a handful of times where people are like, you offered me way less, but you know what? I like you, and I didn't like being pushed by. Here's the thing, though, when you're dealing in real estate, now if you're a realtor, it's different. You're selling, but man, as investors, we're not selling. That guy's selling me to buy his property, and people don't get that. They don't understand. So if you're being Joe Blow salesman, it's just going to turn somebody off, you know. So one of the tricks that I've learned that I love, and I didn't come up with this myself, I learned it in a class, is turning the tables on a seller that's unreasonable. I'm sure you've dealt with those guys who they want, way above retail, and their house needs $100,000 of work.
Sure.
If you're a new wholesaler and somebody comes in with a pie in the sky offer, the best way to turn the tables is that, you know what, I'm not the right buyer for you. They're like, what? Wait, what do you mean you're not the right buyer for me? Well, you want too much for your property. I love you and I want to help you, but I can't lose money helping you. So at the price you're at, I'm not the right buyer for you. So, and they're like, well, hold on. They always want to come back.
Sure.
Right? So we're not selling. We're buying. They're selling us.
Yeah.
Right? Now you're helping them and you're not. Look, the other thing too is don't try to just grind them into the ground. Give somebody something that they can live off of. You know what I mean? That they can walk with, $20,000 or something like that. And you don't be greedy. I could have made a ton more money selling to unscrupulous people. I had a property on the corner of Wright and Spring. You know where the library is downtown?
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Prime real estate, right? Yeah. This was my biggest wholesale deal. I made $90,000 on this deal. I could have made $125,000 and I didn't because the family didn't like the guy that was trying to buy it from me. And they said, do not sell that house to him. And so I didn't. I shopped it around when I had a guy that lived directly across the street that would have bought that property. Now I would have made $125,000, but I didn't do it.
Oof.
Hey, 90's pretty good. I haven't topped that one yet.
90 is pretty good. Can't be too upset.
You got to see this house. Yeah, this house too was like, beautiful house downtown right there on Spring Street. Was horribly dated, falling apart and everything like that. My buyer put $800,000 into it and it's now listed for $1.5 million and it's beautiful. Like I need to win the lottery because I would buy it in a second.
$800,000.
Yeah. So it was a big deal. I mean, it's a big historic house in the middle of downtown Pensacola. I mean, you can walk to the Blue Wahoos from it. Right. So it's prime real estate, but have integrity, do the right thing,
No, I agree. And I think that's like a perfect place that we can kind of pick up because really excited to kind of dive into those details on what does that mean in this space and how do we navigate the right and wrongs. And sometimes I think there's a time where new investors don't even realize they don't know what they don't know. And I'm constantly learning and open, but sometimes I feel like some new people are doing things unintentionally. And then that's just a snowball effect for anyone working for them. Right. So really kind of excited to kind of dive into those in the next episode. But if some listeners wanted to find out more about you, where would they find you and where can they find your shows and just everything about you?
Sure. So my business is Double Encore Properties and Investments. That's got a little musical tie there. And my website is debuysHouses.com. So DE for Double Encore, buyshouses.com. The name of the band is White Tie Rock Ensemble. We do have a website, but we primarily market on Facebook because that's our demographic, because we're playing 60s and 70s type stuff. So on Facebook, White Tie Rock Ensemble is a great place. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram, all the socials. I'm there. They can find me there. But I do try to answer every message or anything. It's really us. So if a fan messages me personally on Facebook and said, "Hey, I had a great time," I will personally, message you back.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. That's awesome. And then Sam, I just want to take 1 second to give a big shout out to Clean Eats. Always getting awesome guests. That's actually where Marcus and I first met. So always getting a great meal at Clean Eats. So just big shout out to Clean Eats there.
Well, here's the thing too, because I have celiac disease. I'm allergic to wheat and gluten. So I can comfortably go to Clean Eats and get a gluten-free meal. And I don't have to worry about, did somebody cross-contaminate me and am I going to be sick for 4 hours in a minute?
Oh, that's awesome. That's even better. Look at that.
Yeah. So I got you guys.
Appreciate it.
So Sam, where do we find you?
Yeah, well, outside of Clean Eats, you can definitely find us at the EliteRealEstatePodcast.com. That's our website. Always loading up new episodes there. We have a little place on there where you can send us messages directly. So if you want to be on the podcast or you have a deal for us, please send it to us there. And then we're really trying to build up our YouTube page. So if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify right now, please jump over to YouTube and hit that subscribe button. We really appreciate it. Really trying to build up those followers on YouTube. So please subscribe to us on YouTube. But feel free to subscribe anywhere you can listen to the Elite Real Estate Podcast. And Will, anything else before we close out this episode and talking to Marcus in part 2 to really dive in deep to really learn about how he balances integrity in his business, which is why we love doing the deal with him.
No, I think we got a lot covered in this first episode. So thanks again.
Hey, I will say though, if you want to see the band in action, we have a YouTube page as well. White Tie Rock Ensemble. So yeah, so we record every show in 4K. We have 20 cameras running around. We record. The funny thing is, the last show we got recorded in 96K, which ended up being about 30 terabytes of information. It was an accident. So we record them in high quality. So check out our YouTube page as well.
No, so we'll put everything down in the link below, guys. You can check out. Well, is it okay if we actually link tickets to as well? And
sure.
Okay.
Sure. I will say though, instead of buying them through Ticketmaster, where you have tons of fees, just go down to the Pensacola Bay Center box office or call the box office, and you'll save a bunch of money that way.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So we'll do that for sure, and we'll link at least whitetierockensemble.com as well as all of your other information if that's cool with you. So
it's fine. Thank you.
Put it in here and your YouTube page. So definitely, if you guys are on YouTube, double subscribe. And we'll see you in the next one.
All right, guys. See everyone on the next episode.